Hi guys, I'm Bobsy, and in this video I'm going to show you the Network Rigidbody component. Now, quick disclaimer, at this current stage, at least that it's going to be shown in this video, I really just spent an evening making it and it's now pushed to PurrNet. So chances are the version that you have might be even more in the future and hopefully even better than the one I'm going to show here. But really, let's just get started. So what I have right now as the very base setup is I just have the classic network manager setup right now just with the UDP transport. And then I just have a player spawner with some spawn points that's already preset and no prefab given. So we're essentially going to be setting up the whole thing from the beginning. And so let me start by just setting up a player. So we can just do here, we can just call this our player. And I'm just going to give it a sphere as the body so we can roll around. And I already have a player material here that I'm just going to feed it. And yeah, that's basically it. So first things first, let's add the Network Rigidbody component. And as you can see, this will have automatically added a rigidbody as well. I'm just going to put this one up at the top. And now the rigidbody you can work with however you want. We can make it continuous collision detection, for example. You can give it a mass of 10. You can really do whatever you want with this. The settings will work just fine. And essentially you should see the network rigidbody as a, I guess, network supporting layer to the rigidbody. And so there's a few things already going on here immediately. First of all, it's just whether it's owner auth or not. This is off by default because most, like let's say scene objects, stuff like that you do want to interact with, you likely don't want to be owner auth. Maybe you do. In this case, it is a player that we have, so I want it to be owner auth. Now the thing is, everybody's going to be able to apply physics to everything. That should generally work. The question is just who is the main authority here. You know, who has the right, who has the truth. And the thing is, for our player, we want it to, look the best that it can for him. So I want to make him owner auth. But he also could be not owner auth, and that could still work just fine. Now, there's an acceptable error, which is essentially how much can it misalign with. So behind the scenes, it'll have the, true position, true rotation, everything that's essentially meant to be as if it was a rigid body. It is, a network transform. It has that data behind the scenes pretty much. But then it tries to utilize physics to reach the true point. And in order to, obviously avoid little micro jitters and it constantly fighting physics and stuff like that, you can have some kind of acceptable error. This can also be very big, which will just mean things can misalign quite a lot on screen. So it can be pretty small, meaning it'll be pretty precise. Now there's also a hard correction threshold. And this is essentially how far away is it allowed to go before it just teleports. Obviously, if you have very fast moving physics, you'd want to make this much higher. And you'd likely want to make both pretty much higher. There's also a max correction time. This one is a little bit volatile, definitely more of a work in progress, but essentially it's if it has not gotten within this acceptable error margin within X amount of time, it'll also teleport. So for example, if you set this to 3, and let's say that after 3 seconds, so essentially something moved, physics changed, it is out beyond this threshold, which it will be while things are moving, and it stays outside of this threshold for about 3 seconds, then it'll teleport to get within the threshold again. Now, obviously, for things that are continuously moving, that's generally a pretty bad idea because most of the time they will spend outside the acceptable error zone, depending on, of course, what the error is. Again, 0.5, they might be within for longer, whereas 0.05, they likely won't. And then there's also a spring constant and a damping constant. Essentially, it uses, as I mentioned, physics to try and get to its actual position. And the spring constant is essentially how aggressive it's going to be to try and pull it towards that actual position. And the damping is obviously to avoid oscillation, right? So if it was purely springing and it was trying to get over here and there was no damping, it would pretty much bounce back and forth. The damping is to stop that. So essentially the closer it gets to its target point, the more it'll slow itself down. So again, depending on how your movement exactly acts and stuff like this, you want to play with these values. So essentially all of these values are things you probably should play around with. Again, I would say the max correction time probably less so. But say you, for example, have an issue with rigid bodies getting stuck on the wrong side of a wall or something like that, where they're technically not outside the threshold of 2, but they do stay outside the acceptable error. You could technically have it eventually teleport to the other side of the wall using the timer. Now, there's also some stabilization and prediction features. Now, this is not prediction, don't get me wrong. This should not be used with client-side prediction, with prediction of PurrNet. But essentially, just to go through the settings, the stabilization with the low speed threshold is essentially when it'll kick in. So if it's moving below 1.5 in terms of the velocity magnitude, then it'll essentially kick in and make the springiness way, way, way less. The reason for this is because when things are moving very, very, very slow, let's say that this ball was just slowly, constantly rolling, you would actually see it constantly sort of spring to its point, spring to its point, spring to its point, and that just doesn't look very nice, which is why there's a low speed threshold, where it'll essentially stop doing that and start just trusting the true values, if that makes sense. So you can play with this, and in the future, I imagine maybe I'll make this more dynamic or based on a range or something like that. And then there's extrapolate based on ping, which is something we might want for players. This essentially means if you have a high ping, we'll try and guess further into the future where you are. Now, of course, be aware with things that change a lot, extrapolation can also be quite volatile in the sense that, we could be, but I mean, the good thing with this that I'm going to say is it uses physics to try and get there, right? So if you just extrapolate a transform, let's say over to this point over here, way over here, it'll essentially, snap over here and then snap up here as soon as you start moving upwards. But the thing with physics is it's essentially just what's the target point behind the scenes that it's trying to go for. So it's not going to teleport over here, but it is going to do more aggressive physics to try and get here. And then all of a sudden when you change direction, it's going to use more aggressive physics to try and get up here. So it'll still overshoot, but it'll overshoot with physics, which still might look smoother than classic extrapolation. So for something like a player, I do want this, but for something like world objects, for example, I might not want this. And now these things you probably have to care less about. These are more optimizations pretty much. So for example, when the rigid body is pretty much standing still or is entirely sleeping, I don't want to be sending data, which is just why we have some bottom thresholds to make sure it stops sending data at a certain point. Max forces per tick is actually, it's a smart system I built behind the scenes. So when you add forces directly to the network rigid body, .add force, and let's say you make it an impulse. We don't want it trying to smooth, let's say it's a jump actually, and we can use that as a case in this video. But let's say it's a jump, right? You want it to jolt up and get up here and then fall down again. You wouldn't want it to like smooth up here and then smooth down here, which is what it would do if you didn't do an impulse force. So when you do other forces other than the regular force, it'll actually store those forces, send them on the next tick, and everybody will essentially replay the force as well. So that when you do an impulse force, it'll also jump on everybody else's screen very quickly. And this is essentially just how many of those are allowed per tick. This is just so we can have a fixed sized array behind the scenes. So let's say you need to do a lot of very unique forces, you can weigh up this number, but I think for 99% of you, if not more, 8's going to be plenty. And then just some debug gizmos. So hopefully that took you through all the settings that there are currently. Of course, the documentations page will also outline the settings. And also I've tried to add tooltips to all of them, so you can always hover to try and see what they do. There should be a little explanation, and let me know if the explanation is not very good. Okay, cool. Now all of that out the way, let's make a little script. Now I already actually have a player movement script here. I think let's just use that because it's extremely simple. So just taking it through with you, I've made a move force, a jump force, and a reference to the network rigid body. Notice how I don't actually have a reference to the normal rigid body. I do everything through the network rigid body, similar to what you do with the network animator, and it should be very easy to use. And I've tried to mimic essentially all the functionality that the normal rigid body has. And everything should be automatically synced through the network rigid body. So first things first, on spawned, I just disable this if we're not the owner, just because obviously we only want the owner being able to control it. Next things next is I just grab the renderer very lazily, just through children, and I just set the color to green if we are the owner, just so we can easily see who we are locally. Now next thing is just the fixed update, classic movement. I just get a direction from the horizontal vertical axis and I normalize that. Also, my cat's yelling in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. And then on the rigid body, I just do add force in the direction with move force, and I actually take the mass into account. The reason why I take mass into account is just so it'll scale regardless of mass. And then in updates, I do it if we get the key down of space, and I add force up, and I actually use the impulse force. So that's basically it. Pretty much as simple as rigid body movement gets. Notice how there's not even a ground check or anything like that. It's really just as lazy just for testing purposes as it gets. So now let me add this to the player. There we go. I'm gonna feed it the network rigid body, and that's basically it. So now let's go. I'm gonna put it in prefabs, and I'm gonna feed it to my spawner. So there we go. And I'm gonna delete it from the scene. Save that. And so first things first, let's just confirm that we can actually see each other move around. So I have a parallel sync clone already booted up, which joined in here, and you can indeed see him move around as well. And generally that works pretty well. So now he's moving around with physics, we're moving around with physics. And as you can see, we can hit each other, and it does actually translate the physics. As you might have seen, there was a little bit of a delay and stuff. Again, that's really just the nature of not being predicted. We kind of have to live with some kind of delay like this. Player-on-player interactions will not be perfect unless you do either input synchronization or prediction, which are the two I can recommend you to look into if you want player-on-player physics interactions. But however, the good side about this is it should very much allow us to do pretty good, let me add the network rigidbody here, pretty good, call it, like we can all interact essentially with the scene, right? So that's really the goal of what I've made here. So let's just make a cube. And I'm essentially just going to plop a lot of these cubes around, just completely default settings on all of them. And actually I made this little physics material, which I'm just going to plop on as well. The only thing this does is just it way lowers the default friction, just so we can very easily push them around. They don't really stop us. And yeah, let's try and add those to the scene, hit save, and I'm going to boot that up on the client over here as well. And I'm going to show you the client actually, so you can see it on both screens. And as you can see now, I can move around and I can push the boxes. We can see the boxes being moved over here. So mind you, this is a client right now pushing these boxes around, which I think works quite well. And again, misalignments can happen and they will happen. Actually, I forgot to show you the jump as well. You can see when I jump as well, it does the jolt in there and that works pretty well. You might notice sometimes it looks a little floaty coming down or something. I think it's some of the estimations that I'm doing, but in general, I think it's looking really good. And you can see over here, this guy, of course, can also push the boxes because he's the, well, he's the host, so he'll be able to push the boxes better than anyone technically. But yeah, look at that. We have physics. We can push things around using the network. And yeah, I think it's really quite good. You can see how sometimes it does look a little bit, you know, it can look a little floaty, a little weird. It like tries to go back. Again, it's really just the nature of this not being true physics. It's more just sort of estimated physics, I want to call it. But I think it does a pretty good job. I think it looks pretty close to what it should. It feels pretty good. Obviously, right now we're doing a local setup, but what I can do without showing all my files is I can go and I can open up the software called Clumsy, where you can essentially, you can force ping, for example. So let me just do that to something like 40, both inbound and outbound, which should put the client to around 80, I believe, in terms of ping. So we should see the ping go up now, and the client should essentially be playing at 80 ping. It's slowly going up because it's, you know, lerping these values, but you get the idea. So now we're actually playing with ping, and you can see how it looks with ping here. As we move around, you can see I can still hit boxes, I can still push them. Now, you know, mispredictions here and stuff will likely be higher because again, we have ping. But the main, I think, really important part here is the fact that it works, right? We can push with physics, we can push them around, and overall they work. I'm sure there's a lot of my estimations here behind the scenes that can be made even better. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. It's still, I think, a pretty smooth experience. And yeah, I'm very interested in what you guys think, if this is helpful to you and your projects. I think it's a very easy way. It's the easiest way I could think of to make sort of plug and play physics that just works with normal networking without having to do anything. So really all you have to do is just add the network rigidbody to things and it should just work out of the box. Again, as you saw, I changed none of the settings. That was just how it looks from default. I'm sure you can tweak the settings, get some even better results, and really try it out your own way. So yeah, I hope you like what you see so far. And I'm sure this component is only going to get better with time. So yeah, have a good one. Please do remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Other than that, I just hope that you have a wonderful day.